The transport crashed 3 kilometers from Harold Shoon's homestead on the outer rim of Taron Colony 7. Harold was 72 years old, had buried his wife a decade prior, and had no interest in the galaxy's politics or its endless parade of alien species seeking trade agreements with humanity. He wanted his solitude, his garden, and his books. The distress beacon changed everything. Harold found the wreckage at dawn, smoke still rising from the twisted metal. The craft was small, civilian class, with markings he didn't recognize. Inside, wedged between collapsed bulkheads, he found her. She was humanoid, mostly. Pale blue skin, large eyes the color of Earth's oceans, and hair that seemed to shift between silver and white, depending on the light. She couldn't have been more than 20 in human years. If such comparisons meant anything, she was alive. Barely. Harold pulled her from the wreckage with strength he didn't know his old body still possessed. She weighed almost nothing. He carried her back to his homestead, laid her on his spare bed, and did what he could with his medical supplies. The colony had doctors, but they were 50 kilometers away, and his communication array had been broken for months. He hadn't bothered fixing it. The girl woke 3 days later. Her name was Lyra, and she spoke Universal Common with an accent that reminded Harold of wind chimes. She was a student, she explained, traveling from her homeworld to study at one of the great academies in the inner systems. Pirates had attacked her transport. She was the only survivor. Harold listened, nodded, and made her soup. "You can stay until you're healed," he said. "Then I'll take you to the colony center. They'll arrange transport." Lyra agreed, gratitude shining in her strange eyes. The first week passed quietly. Lyra recovered quickly, faster than Harold expected. She helped around the homestead, learning his routines. She was curious about everything, asking endless questions about Earth, about humans, about why Harold lived alone so far from others. "People are complicated," Harold said one evening as they sat on his porch, watching the twin moons rise. "Out here, things are simple." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "You are not simple, Harold. You are layered." He snorted. "I'm old. There's a difference." The second week brought changes. Subtle at first. Lyra seemed restless, pacing the homestead at odd hours. Her skin took on a faint luminescence that Harold initially attributed to the local plant life she'd been cataloging. She ate less, slept less, and spent long periods staring at the horizon. "Are you feeling all right?" Harold asked. "Yes," Lyra said quickly. Too quickly. "Just adjusting." Harold didn't press. He'd learned long ago that everyone had secrets, and most were better left unexamined. The third week was when things became strange. Harold woke one night to find Lyra standing in his doorway. The luminescence of her skin had intensified, casting soft blue light across the hallway. Her eyes were unfocused, distant. "Lyra?" She blinked, seeming to return to herself. "I apologize. I was dreaming." She retreated to her room, and Harold lay awake until dawn, uneasy in ways he couldn't articulate. The next day, Lyra was different. She stayed close to Harold, following him through his daily tasks with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. When he worked in the garden, she worked beside him, their hands occasionally brushing. Each touch sent a strange tingling through his skin. "Lyra, maybe you should rest," Harold suggested. "I want to help you," she said, and there was something in her voice that made his chest tighten. That evening, as Harold prepared dinner, Lyra approached him with a seriousness that stopped him mid-motion. "Harold, I must tell you something. About my people." He set down his knife. "All right. We are not like humans. Our biology is different. There are cycles we go through. Seasonal changes." She paused, struggling with the words. "I did not expect this to happen. The crash, the stress, being so far from home. It triggered something early. Harold felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. What are you saying? I am entering my mating season. The words hung in the air between them. Harold stepped back. I see. You do not understand, Lyra said quickly. It is not a choice. My body is releasing pheromones, biochemical signals. To my people, these signals are normal, expected. But to other species, to humans, she looked away. I have read that humans are susceptible to these signals, more than other species. Harold's mind raced. The restlessness, the luminescence, the strange pull he'd been feeling toward her. How long does this last? 6 weeks. Perhaps 8. And you need to? Harold couldn't finish the sentence. My body expects to mate, yes. Without it, I will experience pain, confusion. Eventually, my system will stabilize, but the process is difficult. Lyra met his eyes. I am telling you this because you have been kind to me. You deserve to know what is happening. You deserve to choose. Choose what? Whether to take me to your colony center now, before this progresses further. There are medical facilities there, suppressants that might help. Or, she hesitated, or you can go there yourself. Leave me here until this passes. You should not have to endure my presence during this time. Harold turned away, his hands gripping the counter. 72 years old. He'd thought he was done with complications, with difficult decisions. He'd thought he'd earned his peace. I'm not leaving you alone, he said finally. You're injured, stranded on a foreign world. I won't abandon you. Then I will go to the colony center. Not yet. You're still healing. The trip is rough, and you're in no condition. Harold turned to face her. We'll manage this, together. Lyra's expression was unreadable. You are certain? No, Harold admitted. But I'm too old to start making the easy choices now. The following days tested Harold in ways he hadn't experienced in decades. Lyra's pheromones were powerful, filling the homestead with a scent like ocean air and electricity. Harold found himself distracted, his thoughts wandering to places they had no business going. She was beautiful, yes, but she was also young, alien, and under his protection, he would not betray that trust. Harold threw himself into work. He fixed the southern fence he'd been putting off for months. He reorganized his entire storage shed. He cataloged every book in his collection. Anything to stay busy, to keep his mind occupied. Lyra, for her part, kept her distance as much as her condition allowed. Harold would find her meditating in the garden, her skin glowing in the twilight, her expression one of deep concentration. She was fighting her own biology, he realized, fighting to maintain control. One evening, 3 weeks into her cycle, Lyra found Harold on the porch. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For treating me with dignity. For not. She sat beside him. My people have stories about what happens to our kind when they encounter other species during this time. Not all of those stories end well. Harold nodded slowly. I've lived long enough to know that how we treat others in their vulnerable moments defines who we are. Where I come from, there is a concept. Strength tempered by compassion. It is the highest virtue. You embody it. I'm just doing what anyone decent would do. No, Lyra said firmly. You are doing what few would. You are sacrificing your comfort, your peace, to ensure my safety and dignity. That is not common. That is exceptional. Harold didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. The weeks crawled by. Harold's communication array remained broken. The colony center remained 50 kilometers away. The homestead became its own small world, containing just the two of them and the unspoken tension that filled every room. But they endured. Harold taught Lyra about Earth's old poets. She taught him about the navigation techniques her people used to cross the void between stars. They played chess using pieces Harold carved from scrap wood. They cooked together, learning to blend Earth vegetables with the preserved rations from Lyra's crashed ship. They became friends. 6 weeks after the crash, Lyra's luminescence began to fade. Her restlessness eased. The oppressive weight of her pheromones lifted gradually, like morning fog burning away under sunlight. "It's ending," she said one morning, relief evident in her voice. Harold nodded, surprised by the complex mixture of emotions he felt. Relief, certainly, but also something else, something he couldn't quite name. 2 days later, Harold's neighbor, a younger colonist named Thomas, who checked on him quarterly, arrived unexpectedly. "Your array's been down for months," Thomas said. "Wanted to make sure you hadn't died out here." Harold introduced Lyra, explained about the crash. Thomas immediately offered to take her to the colony center to arrange transportation back to the inner systems. Lyra looked at Harold. Harold looked at Lyra. "I suppose it's time," Harold said finally. The journey to the colony center took most of a day. Arrangements were made. A transport would arrive in a week to take Lyra to the nearest major hub. Before she left with the colony officials, Lyra pulled Harold aside. "Come with me," she said suddenly, "to the inner systems. You saved my life. My family would welcome you. You could see things you've only read about in books." Harold smiled, genuinely touched. "I'm too old for adventures, Lyra. This is my home. Then I will return. After my studies. I will come back and visit you. You don't have to. I know. But I want to. You showed me what humanity truly is. Not the politicians or the traders or the soldiers. You. One old man who chose kindness when it cost him everything." Harold embraced her, briefly, awkwardly. "Be safe out there. You as well, Harold. You as..."